I don't know why my camera does that all the time. It's annoying. Hi, this is Alice from Allykatkreations. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And if you get anything from my work, mic drop, connect the dot, a new author to read, a new book to explore, please consider supporting my work. Jesus Christ. Yes. That would be very helpful. Here's a little update before I get into the book. I got my fridge and my oven today. I'm so excited. I can now paint the rest of the house because they had to move the old fridge down here, not in this space, but down in my downstairs. Because my fridge is ridiculously tiny and I can't put anything really in it. So I have to use two, but that's okay. I also have a plumbing issue, a major one. Every time I run an appliance that uses water or take a shower, I get backed up in the bathroom behind me. And not just a backup, like an overflow of water. Yeah, this is just like my old house, and I'm getting aggravated because it just keeps pushing everything back and further back and further back. And I'm waiting on my birth certificate because Indiana doesn't accept what I've had for the last almost 40 years. So and I gotta wait now and continue paying New York. They're bullshit. I have to find an accountant. I got to do a lot of stuff. So thank you for all of you who continuously support my channel. I really thank you so much. It really means the world to me. It helps me spread the word, get different perspectives. It's just really taking, on my end, really long to get settled in here. And then my body is not 100% right now either. So it's just mind-boggling. So thank you for being patient with my readings. I am going to do Blavatsky next. I just have to wake up really early in the morning because I have a couple of errands that I have to run. And that would be food shopping to get actual food. So her next stuff is a lot. So I'm going to focus on Manly P-hole, the secret teaching of all ages. And it's a fun topic. And by the way, I hope everybody has and had an amazing Valentine's Day. Just me. I bought myself roses. Yep, that's what I did for myself. It's self-love day. So if you're not with anybody and you don't have love expressed to you, express it to yourself. Because you, at the end of the day, are the most important being on this planet. For real. Hence my little lipstick. This is a really good topic. The Pythagorean theory of music and color. Before I even get into that, I just bought this goodie the Manual of Harmonics. I don't know why it keeps panning out like that. It's weird. As we see, I have a lot of books, but I don't have all my books. Or I need more books. So this is the Manual of Harmonics of Nicomachus, the Pythagorean. Translation and commentary by Flora R. Levin. We'll see if this is a really good read. It looks it. I just like to put that out there. A lot of my artwork is based off of things that you can't see. It still exists. A lot of metaphysics, a lot of color and frequency and vibration. So a lot of this is really helpful for me. And here we go. Harmony is a state recognized by great philosophers as the immediate prerequisite of beauty. A compound is termed beautiful only when its parts are in harmonious combination. The world is called beautiful and its creator is designated the good, because good performance must act in conformity with its own nature. And good acting according to its own nature is harmony, because the good which it accomplishes is harmonious with the good which it is. Beauty, therefore, is harmony, manifesting its own intrinsic nature in the world of form. I'm going to lose my place if I don't have my pencil. The university is made up of successive graduations of good. These graduations ascending from matter, which is the least degree of good, to spirit, which is the greatest degree of good. In man, his superior nature is the summum bonum. I don't think I said that right either. It therefore follows that his highest nature most readily cognizes good, because the good external to him in the world is in harmonic ratio with the good present in his soul. What man terms evil is therefore in common with matter, merely the least degree of its own opposite. The least degree of good presupposes likewise I've been having a lot of dyslexic moments. The least degree of harmony and beauty. Thus, deformity, evil, is really the least harmonious combinations of elements, naturally harmonic as individual units. Deformity is unnatural, for the sum of all things being the good, it is natural that all things should partake of the good and be arranged in combinations that are harmonious. Harmony is the manifesting expression of the will of the eternal good. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know why. To reread that. Deformity is unnatural, for the sum of all things being the good. It is natural that all things should partake of the good and be arranged in combinations that are harmonious. Harmony is the manifesting expression of the will of the eternal good. The philosophy of music. It is highly probable that the Greek initiates gained their knowledge of the philosophic and therapeutic aspects of music from the Egyptians, who in turn concerned Hermes, founder of the art. According to one legend, the god constructed the first lyre by stretching strings across the concavity of a turtle shell. Both Isis and Osiris were patrons of music and poetry. Plato, in describing the antiquity of these arts among the Egyptians, declared that songs and poetry had existed in Egypt for at least 10,000 years, and that these were of such an exalted and inspiring nature that only gods or godlike men could have composed them. In the mysteries of the lyre was regarded as the secret symbol of the human constitution, the body of the instrument representing the physical form, the strings, the nerves, and the musician, the spirit. Playing upon the nerves, the spirit thus created the harmonies of normal functioning, which, however, became discords if the nature of man were defiled. While the early Chinese, Hindu, Persians, Egyptians, Israelites, and Greeks employed both vocal and instrumental music in their religious ceremonials, also to complement their poetry and drama, it remained for Pythagoras to raise the art to its true dignity by demonstrating its mathematical foundation. Although it is said that he himself was not a musician, Pythagoras is now generally credited with the discovery of the Diatonic Scale, having first learned the divine theory of music from the priests of the various mysteries into which he had been accepted. Pythagoras pondered for several years upon the laws governing consonance and dissonance. How he actually solved the problem is unknown, but the following explanation has been invented. One day, while meditating upon a problem of harmony, Pythagoras chanced to pass a brazier's shop where workmen were pounding out a piece of metal upon an anvil. By noting the variances in pitch between the sounds made by large hammers and those made by smaller implements, and carefully estimating the harmonic and discords resulting from combinations of these sounds, he gained his first clue to the music intervals of the Diatonic Scale. He entered the shop, and after carefully examining the tools and making mental note of their weights, returned to his own house and constructed an arm of wood so that it extended out from the wall of his room. At regular intervals along this arm, he attached 4 cords, all alike composed, size, and weight. To the first of these, he attached a 12-pound weight, to the second, a 9-pound weight, to the third, an 8-pound weight, and to the fourth, a 6-pound weight. These different weights corresponded to the sizes of the brazier's hammers. Pythagoras thereupon discovered that the first and fourth strings, when sounded together, produced a harmonic interval of octave. For doubling the weight had the same effect as having the string. The tension of the first string being twice that of the fourth string, their ratio was said to be 2-to-1, or duple. By similar experimentation, he ascertained that the first and third string produced the harmony of the dipenti, or the interval of the fifth. The tension of the first string began half again, as much as of the third string. Their ratio was said to be 3-to-2, or sesquialter. I'm not getting that word out, guys, sorry. Likewise, the second and the fourth strings, having the same ratio as the first and third strings, yielded a dipent harmony. Continuing his investigation, Pythagoras discovered that the first and second strings produced a harmony of the diterceron, or the interval of the third. And the tension of the first string being a third greater than that of the second string, their ratio was said to be 4-to-3, or sesquialterian. The third and fourth strings, having the same ratio as the first and second strings, produce another harmony of the diterceron. Sorry, guys, I cannot project. According to Implicus, the second and third strings had the ratio of 8-to-9, or epodong. Epog doen. I'm not saying that right. Please write in the comments how to say that word. The key to the harmonic ratios is hidden in the famous Pythagorean Tetrax, or pyramid of dots. The pyramid is made up of the first four numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is their proportions reveal the intervals of the octave, the dipent, and the diatessaron. While the law of harmonic intervals as set forth above is true, it has been subsequently proved that hammers striking metal in the manner described will not produce the various tones ascribed to them. In all probability, therefore, Pythagoras actually worked out his theory of harmony from the monochord or contrivance consisting of a single string stretched between two pegs and supplied with movable frets. To Pythagoras, music was one of the dependencies of the divine science of mathematics, and its harmonics were inflexibility, controlled by mathematical proportions. The Pythagoreans averred that mathematics demonstrated the exact method by which the good established and maintained its universe. Number therefore preceded harmony, since it was the immutable law that governs all harmonic proportions. After discovering these harmonic ratios, Pythagoras gradually initiated his disciples into this, the supreme archaeum of his mysteries. He divided them multitudinous parts of creation into a vast number of planes or spheres, to each of which he assigned a tone, a harmonic interval, a number, a name, a color, and a form. He then proceeded to prove the accuracy of his deductions by demonstrating them upon the different planes of intelligence and substance, ranging from the most abstract logical premise to the most concrete geometrical solid. From the common agreement of these diversified methods of proof, he established the indisputable existence of certain natural laws. Having once established music as an exact science, Pythagoras applied his newly found law of harmonics intervals to all the phenomena of nature, even going so far as to demonstrate the harmonic relationship of the planets, constellations, and elements to other. A notable example of modern collaboration of ancient philosophical teaching is that of the progression of the elements according to the harmonic ratios. While making a list of the elements in the ascending order of their atomic weights, John A. Newlands discovered at every eighth element a distinct repetition of properties. This discovery is known as the law of octaves in modern chemistry. Pause. If we go back to the law of one, it talks about the octaves. And a lot of my videos, I talk about the sub and the sub-sub octaves and the vibrations that we are frequenting within and between those densities. And it is said that we live in a harmonic universe. He's channeling. Since they held that harmony must be determined not by the sense perceptions, but by reason and mathematics. The Pythagoreans called themselves Diatonics, as distinguished from musicians of the harmonic school, who asserted taste and instinct to be the true normative principles of harmony. Recognizing, however, the profound effect of music upon the senses and emotions, Pythagoras did not hesitate to influence the mind and body with what he termed musical medicine. Pythagoras evinced such a marked preference for string instruments that he even went so far as to warn his disciples against allowing their ears to be defiled by the sounds of flutes or cymbals. He further declared that the soul could be purified from the rational influences by solemn songs sung to the accompaniment of a lyre. In his investigation of the therapeutic value of harmonics, Pythagoras discovered that the 7 modes or keys of the Greek system of music had the power to incite or allay the various emotions. It is relative, that while observing the stars one night, he encountered a young man befuddled with strong drink and mad with jealousy, who was piling, I'm not going to say that word, and his mistress, door, with the intention of burning the house. The frenzy of the youth was accentuated by a flutist a short distance away who was playing a tune in the stirring Pythagorean mode. Pythagoras induced the musician to change his air to the slow and rhythmic spasmodic mode, whereupon the intoxicated youth immediately became composed and, gathering up his bundles of wood, returned quietly to his own home. There is also no account how Empedocles, a disciple of Pythagoras, and I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correctly, by quickly changing the mode of musical composition he was playing, saved the life of his host in Chilotus, when the latter was threatened with death by the sword of one whose father had condemned to public execution. It was also known that Asclepius, the Greek physician, cured sciatica and other diseases of the nerves by blowing a loud trumpet in the presence of the patient. Well, now, I used to play trumpet. Damn. Pythagoras cured many ailments of the spirit, soul, and the body by having certain specifically prepared music compositions played in the presence of the sufferer, or by personally reciting short selections from such early poets as Hesiod and Homer. In his university, Crotona, it was customary for the Pythagoreans to open and to close each day with songs. Those in the morning calculated to clear the mind from sleep and inspire it to the activities of the coming day. Those in the evening of a mode soothing, relaxing, and conducive to rest. At the vernal equinox, Pythagoras caused his disciples to gather in a circle around one of their number, who led them in song and played their accompanied upon the lyre. The therapeutic music of Pythagoras is described by Implicus thus, quote, and there are certain melodies devised as remedies against the passions of the soul, and also against despondency and lamentation, which Pythagoras invented as things that afforded the greatest assistance in these malaise. And again, he employed other melodies against rage and anger, against every aberration of the soul. There is also another kind of modulation invented as a remedy against desires. And in modern times, in our times, they're called binaural beats to certain frequencies and hertz that help the body recover from certain ailments, feelings, emotions. I am a very high proponent of those. Sound baths. Definitely check those out, guys. And a lot of that time, it's free. It is probable that Pythagoreans recognized a connection between the 7 Greek modes of the planets. As an example, Pliny declares that Saturn moves in the Dorian mode and Jupiter in the Phaeron mode. It is also apparent that the temperaments are key to the various modes and the passions likewise. Thus, anger, which is a fiery passion, may be accentuated by a fiery mode, or its power neutralized by a watery mode. The far-reaching effect exercised by music upon the culture of the Greeks is thus summed up by Eumenon, quote, Plato depreciated the notion that music was intended solely to create cheerful and agreeable emotions, maintaining rather that it should calculate a love of that all is noble, and that man's innermost feelings, than melody and rhythm. Firmly convinced of this, he agreed that Damon of Athens, the musical instructor of Socrates, that the introduction of a new and presumably invigorating scale would endanger the future of a whole nation, and that it was not possible to alter a key without shaking the very foundation of the state. Plato affirmed that music, which ennobled the mind, was of a far higher kind than that which merely appealed to the scenes and senses, and he strongly insisted that it was paramount duty of the legislature to suppress all music of an effeminate and less lascivious character, and to encourage only that which was pure and dignified, that bold and stirring melodies were for men, gentle and soothing ones for women. From this, it is evident that music played a considerable part in the education of the Greek youth. The greatest care was also to be taken in the selection of instrumental music, because the absence of words rendered its significance doubtful, and it was difficult to foresee whether it would exercise upon the people a benign or baneful influence. Popular taste being always tickled by sensuous and can't get that out, and I'm not getting frustrated over it. Effects was to be treated with deserved contempt. Even today, martial music is used with telling effect in times of war, and religious music, while no longer developed in accordance with the ancient theory, still profoundly influences the emotions of laity. My very first trumpet mouthpiece. The things you find when you just unload shit. The music of the spheres. The most sublime but least known of all the Pythagorean speculations was that of sidereal harmonics. It was said that of all men, only Pythagoras heard the music of the spheres. Apparently, the Chaldeans were the first people to conceive of the heavenly bodies joining in a cosmic chant as they move in stately manner across the sky. Job describes a time, quote, when the stars of the morning sang together, end quote. And in The Merchant of Venice, the author of the Shakespearean plays writes, quote, there's not the smallest orb which thou beholdest, but in his motion, like an angel sings, end quote. So little remains, however, of the Pythagorean system of celestial music that it is only possible to approximate his actual theory. Pythagoras conceived the universe to be an immense monochord with its single string connected at its upper end to absolute spirit, at its lower end to absolute matter. In other words, a cord stretched between heaven and earth. Counting inward from the circumference of the heavens, Pythagoras, according to some authorities, divided the universe into 9 parts, so that in Norse. According to others, into 12 parts. The 12-fold system was as follows. The division was called the Empyrean, or the sphere of the fixed stars, and was the dwelling place of the immortals. The second to the 12th divisions were in order the spheres of Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and the Moon, and fire, air, water, and earth. This arrangement of the 7 planets, the Sun and Moon, being regarded as planets in the old astronomy, is identical with the candlestick symbolism of the Jews, the Sun in the center of the main stem and 3 planets on either side of it. Interesting. The names given by the Pythagoreans to the various notes of the Diatonic scale were, according to Macrobius, derived from an estimation of the velocity and magnitude of the planetary bodies. Each of these gigantic spheres, as it rushed endlessly through space, was believed to sound a different tone caused by its continuous displacement of the ethereal diffusion. As these tones were a manifestation of divine order and motion, it must necessarily follow that they partook of the harmony of their own source. The assertion that the planets in their revolutions round the earth uttered certain sounds differing according to their respective magnitude, celerity, and local distance was common made by the Greeks. Thus, Saturn, the furthest planet, was said to have given the gravest note, which the moon, which is the nearest, gave the sharpest. These sounds of the 7 planets and the sphere of the fixed stars, together with the above, us, and Chithion, are the 9 muses, and their joint symphony is called can't pronounce that. This quotation contains an obscure reference to the 9-fold division of the universe previously mentioned. The Greek initiates also recognize a fundamental relationship between the individual heavens or spheres of the 7 planets and the 7 sacred vowels. The first heaven uttered the sound of the sacred vowel A, alpha. The second heaven, the sacred vowel E, epsilon. The third H, eta. The fourth I, iota. The fifth O, omicron. The sixth Y, upsilon. And the 7th heaven, the sacred vowel omega. What matrix is this from? When these 7 heavens sing together, they produce a perfect harmony, which ascends as an everlasting praise to the throne of the Creator. Which one? Although not so stated, it is probable that the planetary heavens are to be considered an ascending in the Pythagorean order, beginning with the sphere of the moon, which would be first heaven. That's a joke. Many early instruments had 7 strings, and it is generally conceded that Pythagoras was the one who added the 8th string to the lyre of Terpander. The 7 strings were always related both to their correspondence in the human body and to the planets. The name of the gods were also conceived to be formed from the combinations of the 7 planetary harmonies. The Egyptians confined their sacred songs to the 7 primary sounds, forbidding any others to be uttered in their temples. One of their hymns contained the following invocation, quote, "The 7 sounding tones praise thee, the great God, the ceaseless working Father of the whole universe," end quote. Another, the deity describes himself thus, quote, "I am the great universe," end quote. And another deity describes himself thus, quote, "I am the great indestructible lyre of the whole world, attuning the songs of the heavens," end quote. The Pythagoreans believed that everything which existed had a voice, and that all creatures were eternally singing the praise of the Creator. Man fails to hear these divine melodies because his soul is enmeshed in the illusion of material existence. That's damn true. When he liberates himself from the bondage of the lower world with its sense limitations, the music of the spheres will again be audible as it was in the Golden Age. Harmony recognizes harmony, and when the human soul regains its true estate, it will not only hear the celestial choir, but also join with it in an everlasting anthem of praise to the eternal good, controlling the infinite number of parts and conditions of the being. The Greek mysteries included in their doctrines a magnificent concept of the relationship existing between music and form. The elements of architecture, for example, were considered a comparable to music modes and notes, or as having a musical counterpart. Consequently, when a building was erected in which a number of these elements were combined, the structure was then likened to a musical chord, which is harmonic only when it fully satisfied the mathematical requirements of harmonic intervals. The realization of this analogy between sound and form led Goethe to declare that architecture is crystallized music. In constructing their temples of initiation, the early priests frequently demonstrated their superior knowledge of the principles underlying the phenomenon known as vibration. A considerable part of the mystery rituals consisted of invocations and intonements, for which purpose special sound chambers were constructed. A word whispered in one of these apartments was so intensified that the reverberations made the entire building sway and be filled with a deafening roar. How were the pyramids built? The very wood and stone used in the erection of these sacred tech buildings eventually became so thoroughly permeated with the sound of vibrations of the religious ceremonies that when struck, they would reproduce the same tones, thus repeatedly impressed into the substances by the rituals. Every element in nature has its own individual keynote. If these elements are combined in a composite structure, the result is a chord that, if sounded, will disintegrate the compound into its integral parts. Likewise, each individual has a keynote that, if sounded, will destroy him. The allegory of the walls of Jericho falling when the trumpets of Israel were sounded is undoubtedly intended to set forth the arcane significance of individual keynote or vibration. Spontaneous human combustion. The philosophy of color. Light, writes Edwin D Babbitt, quote, reveals the glories of the eternal world and yet is the most glorious of them all. It gives beauty, reveals beauty, and is itself most beautiful. It is the analyzer, the truth teller, and the exposer of shams, for it shows things as they are. Its infinite streams measure off the universe and flow into our telescopes from stars, which are quintillions of miles distance. On the other hand, it descends to objects inconceivably small and reveals through the microscope objects 50 millions of times less than it can be seen by the naked eye. Like all other fine forces, its movement is wonderfully soft, yet penetrating and powerful. Without its vivifying influence, vegetable, animal, and human life must immediately perish from the earth, and general ruin take place. We shall do well, then, to consider this potential and beautiful principle of light and its component colors. For the more deeply we penetrate into our inner laws, the more it will present itself as a marvelous storehouse of power to vitalize, heal, refine, and delight mankind. End quote. Since light is the basic physical manifestation of life, bathing all creation in its radiance, it is highly important to realize, in part, at least the subtle nature of its divine substance. That which is called light is actually a rate of vibration causing certain reactions upon the optic nerve. Few realize how they are walled in by the limitations of the sense perceptions Not only is there a great deal more to light than anyone has ever seen, but there are also unknown forms of light which no optical equipment will ever register. There are unnumbered colors which cannot be seen, as well as sounds which cannot be heard, odors which cannot be smelled, flavors which cannot be tasted, and substances which cannot be felt. Man is thus surrounded by a super sensible universe of which he knows nothing, because the centers of sense perception within himself has not developed sufficiently to respond to the subtler rates of vibration of which that universe is composed. This is a lot of components of my artwork. Among both civilized and savage peoples, color has been accepted as a natural language in which to couch their religious and philosophical doctrines. The ancient city of Ecbantia, as described by Herodotus, its 7 walls colored according to the 7 planets, revealed the knowledge of this subject possessed by the Persian Magi. The famous zikkurat, or astronomical tower of the god Nebo at Borsippa, ascended in 7 great steps or stages, which step being painted in the key color of one of the planetary bodies. It is thus evident that the Babylonians were familiar with the concept of the spectrum in its relation to the 7 creative gods or powers. In India, one of the Mughal emperors caused a fountain to be made with 7 levels. The water pouring down the sides through specially arranged channels changed color as it descended, passing sequentially through all shades of the spectrum. In Tibet, color is employed by the native artists to express various moods. Augustine Waddell, writing of Northern Buddhist art, notes that in Tibetan mythology, white and yellow complexions usually typify mild moods, while the red, blue, and black belong to fierce forms, though sometimes light blue, as indicating the sky, means merely celestial. Generally, the gods are pictured white, goblins red, and devils black, like their European relative. In Meno, Plato, speaking through Socrates, describes color as an influence of form, consumate with sight and sensible. In Theodicus, he discourses much at length at the subject thus, quote, "Let us carry out the principle which has just been affirmed, that nothing is self-existent, and that we shall see that every color, white, black, and every other color, arises out of the eye, meaning the appropriate motion, and that what we term the substance of each color is neither the active nor the passive element, but something which passes between them, and is peculiar to each person." Are you certain that several colors appear to every animal, say a dog, as they appear to you? End quote. Sorry, guys, my teeth are loose. In the Pythagorean Tetrax, the supreme symbol of universal forces and processes are set forth the theories of the Greeks concerning color and music. The first 3 dots represent the threefold white light, which is the Godhead, containing potentially all sound and color. The remaining 7 dots are the colors of the spectrum and the notes of the musical scale. The colors and tones are the active creative powers, which, emanating from the first cause, establish the universe. The 7 are divided into 2 groups, one containing 3 powers, and the other 4 are relationship also shown in the Tetrax. I'm not saying that right. The higher group, that of the 3, becomes the spiritual nature of the creative universe. The lower group, that of the 4, manifests as the irrational sphere or inferior world. In the mysteries of the 7 logi, or creative lords, are shown as streams of force issuing from the mouth of the Eternal One. thus signifies the spectrum being extracted from the white light or the supreme deity. The 7 creators or fabricators of the inferior spheres are called by the Jews the Elohim. By the Egyptians, they are referred to as the builders, sometimes as the governors, and are depicted with great knives in their hands, with which they carve the universe from its primordial substance. Worship of the planets is based upon their acceptance of the cosmic embodiments of the 7 creative attributes of God. The lords of the planets were described as dwelling within the body of the sun, for the true nature of the sun, being analogous to the white light, contains the seeds of all the tone and color potencies which it manifests. There are numerous arbitrary arrangements setting forth the mutual relationships of the planets, the colors, and the musical notes. The most satisfactory system is that based upon the law of octave. The sense of hearing has a much wider scope than that of sight, for as the ear can register from 9 to 11 octaves of sound, the eye is restricted to the cognition of but 7 fundamental color tones, or 1 tone short of the octave. It's true. Red, when posited at the lowest color tone in the scale of chromatics, thus corresponds to do, the first note of the musical scale. Continuing the analogy, orange corresponds to re, yellow to mi, green to fa, blue to sol, indigo to la, and violet to si, or ti. The 8th color tone necessarily to complete the scale should be the higher octave of red, the first color tone. The accuracy of the above arrangement is attested by 2 striking facts. 1, the 3 fundamental notes of the music scale, the first, the third, and the fifth, correspond with the 3 primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. The 7th and least perfect note of the musical scale corresponds with purple, the least perfect tone of the color scale. In the Principles of Light and Color, Edwin D Babbitt confirms the correspondence of color in musical scales. Quote, as C is at the bottom of the music scale and made with the coarsest waves of air, so is red at the bottom of the chromatic scale and made with the coarsest waves of humorous ether. As the music note B, the 7th note of the scale, requires 45 vibrations of air every time the note C at the lower end of the scale requires 24, or but little over half as many, so does extreme violet require over 8 trillions of vibrations of ether in a second, while extreme red requires only about 450 trillions, which also are but little more than half as many. When one musical octave is finished, another one commences and progresses with just twice as many vibrations as were used in the first octave. And so the same notes are repeated on the finer scale. In the same way, when the scale of colors visible to the ordinary eye is completed in the violet, another octave of finer invisible colors, which just twice as many vibrations will commence and progress on precisely the same law. When the colors are related to the 12 signs of the zodiac, they are arranged as spokes on a wheel. To Aries is assigned pure red, to Taurus red orange, to Gemini pure orange, to Cancer orange yellow, to Leo pure yellow, to Virgo yellow green, to Libra pure green, to Scorpio green blue, to Sagittarius pure blue, to Capricorn blue violet, to Aquarius pure violet, and to Pisces violet red. In expounding the Eastern system of esoteric philosophy, P Balabonsky relates the colors of the septenary constitution of man and the 7 states of matter as follows. Color, violet. Principles of man, Shaya or etheric double. States of matter, ether. Color, indigo. Principles of man, higher manas or spiritual intelligence. States of matter, critical state called air. Blue, auric envelope, steam or vapor. Green, lower manas or animal soul, critical state. Yellow, Budai or spiritual soul, water. Orange, Prana or life principle, critical state. Red, Karma Rupa or seat of animal life, ice. This arrangement of the colors of the spectrum and musical notes of the octave necessitates a different grouping of the planets in order to preserve their proper tone and color analogies. Thus becomes Mars, the sun. Oh, Mars Re, the sun Me, Mercury Fa, Saturn Sol, Jupiter La, Venus T, the moon. And that ends this chapter on the Pythagorean theory of music and color. Why I feel that this is important is that we're needing to understand the components of how things operate in this simulation holographic matrix, and who knows which one we're in because it keeps shifting. As a human being, energy is flowing within us and we're vibrating because they tell you to vibe high, but we're continuously moving. And so is our vibration and frequency. We can't see our auric field. Some people can, but most people cannot see their auric field or their toroidal field. And that's composed of vibration, octaves, colors all around us. Ra talks about it. He talks about the octaves and how we're jumping and the colors of our chakras. Red, root, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo. So, very interesting. I love Manly Pihol. I thought that was going to be an interesting read because Valentine's Day is almost over. I didn't realize the time, and I shifted time zones, so I'm still very confused on a lot of time stuff. I'm getting things accomplished and there is progress being made, but it's not to my specifications. And it's also being heavily set back by just thinking everything is going to go smooth and just nothing does. And that's just such as life. And when people are like, well, that you're manifesting and you're putting that into the ether, well, no, I'm not, because I'm trying to manifest a better life for myself. And just, it's nothing but a living nightmare. I'm doing the best that I can to keep positive. But there's a lot going on. So I really want to thank everybody for bearing with me. I'm going to try to get more out as things are progressing in the house slowly. Just trying to build my future, and I don't know what that future holds, to be honest. I can't do much of anything without identification and proper identification for the state. So I'm waiting. In the meantime, not making anything. You know, have to start working. bills coming in. I have to have tree trimmers coming because I have trees over my house. My insurance company's like, you have to have them trimmed. Oh, I have to. They're not picking my garbage up. There's just this a whirlwind of nonsense that at times you can't ignore because it does affect your everyday life. Trying to keep positive. I have an oven. I made sliders today. I'm so happy that I can cook. Finally, not nuke things. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Hopefully I can get my kitchen table soon. Hopefully I can unbox my utensils. Get the rest of the stuff out of storage. That would be nice. Slowly getting there. But I kind of anticipated a little bit of this. I just didn't think it was going to take this long. So I do apologize to everybody. I'm going to play around with trying to do oracle readings. I might have to do them on the laptop because I don't have like one of those cameras or that rig set up yet. Also, this death situation isn't going to support the oracle, so I'm going to have to figure that out. But as I'm anchoring my energy here, as chaotic as things are, and I'm very with the mess that's over there, I'm slowly anchoring my energy and I'm starting to come into center so that spirit can come out properly without interference or anything negative coming through. So I'm really excited for that. Really excited. I want to get back into oracle readings really bad, because that helps a lot of people. So I hope everybody had a really good Valentine's Day. And if, again, it's a commercialized holiday, the beginnings of it suck. It's not based off anything good. It's commercialized. But we really need to have sometimes a reminder to give ourselves self-love. You got to love yourself first before you can love anybody unconditionally and relationship-wise, intimately. You know, look in the mirror and tell yourself, I love you. And if that's hard to do, we got some work to do. So with that, I hope everybody had a great day. I hope many of you had some really pretty flowers to smell and some chocolates to dig in. You know, we YOLO once in this vehicle, so enjoy it. Sending each and every one of you love and light and protection through these very crazy times. And I hope to see you in the next one. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Every little bit helps. You know, it's just me and the world. Until next time, guys.